Hey, greetings, it's me, Dr. Paul Gerhardt, and this week we are focusing on leaders that we have observed that have held actual managerial or leadership titles and those people who have not. And I'm asking you to really be thinking about what each of these people do and consider the specific examples. You'll see in the literature as you dig deeply that leadership is a constantly changing phenomenon. It's about making a positive difference. And of course, you can't be a leader unless you have followers. And as hopefully you're finding out that leadership is an amazing phenomenon where there are thousands and thousands of articles and pieces of research that have been done to help us understand how to move people to accomplishing organizational goals more effectively and, of course, efficiently. So today I want to talk about, as you see on the screen, something called emergent leadership. Just because a person may not have an official title like vice president or manager or director or even supervisor, you know what I'm talking about. There are still people that seemingly move people to take action so that they can become more efficient and effective. So I ask you to consider a few of the theories in that context. What is it that leaders are doing that make them effective? And what have you seen with people who are applying theory? Because theory really is about being able to create a model that helps us understand something that appears to be taking place on a consistent basis that gets consistent results, right? So that's a model. So as you see, emergent leadership is all about leaders which arise from a group and have their base power from followers rather than higher authority. Example, elected leaders. Of course, elected leaders have leadership titles, and I'm making the argument that there are people who are acting as leaders all the time in every type of organization, even though they don't have an official title. So idiosyncrasy credits the freedom to violate group norms given the member who have contributed much to the group. So it really is actions that help define what a leader does and helps get results. So let's talk a little bit about participative leadership. This is about involving subordinates in making work-related decisions. There are some advantages, as the slide points out, that motivation, quality, and acceptance. But the disadvantages, of course, are time and effort, loss of power, and lack of knowledge or interest. So some people won't follow leaders that don't necessarily have a title, and I'm sure you may have seen that phenomenon in each of your careers. With transformational leadership, this of course is one of the most interesting and well-used leadership theories out there. Originally studied by Gregory Burns, and then the work was primarily taken over by Bernard Bass, and then Oviolio, of course, took over that work. So there's a lot of researchers out there who are studying transformational leadership, because it really is about turning around, inspiring people through various qualities to help them take actions that changes the way things are done, or transforms, of course. So leadership which provides followers with a vision that instills commitment. So you have to ask yourself, are there people out there in your organization that are helping people embrace an organizational vision of a better future? Characteristics of transformational leadership. In the tool, the MLQ5, that measures transformational leadership, it measures these qualities: individualized consideration, intellectual stimulation, and charisma. And of course, you can do more research on what each of those terms mean, but you can probably figure what those are and how they make a difference in an organization in moving people to make choices that helps them take actions to accomplish organizational goals. So let's talk about charismatic leaders just a little bit. Now, we've seen a lot of leaders in politics who have moved people, and I don't like to talk about politics in any of my classes, but you can't deny that some leaders are more charismatic than others, and seemingly they're the ones who inspire people to take actions. And the slide talks about traits including self-confidence, dominance, and a strong conviction in one's beliefs. They simultaneously hold high expectations and confidence in the abilities of their followers. So again, I ask you to think about the context of leaders that actually have the title of leader, that hold these, versus people who don't have a leadership title but are still charismatic. Some of the stages of charismatic leadership that we find in the studies: a leader carefully assesses the need for change, the leader formulates a vision, and the leader gets subordinates to carry out the mission by setting an example of sacrifice or expertise that inspires confidence and trust. So, what have you seen in the workplace? What have you seen in yourself? Do you do these things? And how has your charisma affected your journey as a leader, and how can it affect your journey as a leader? Gender and leadership style. This is interesting. I mean, these days, you still, if you look at the literature in the Fortune 500, if you know that there are almost the same exact amount of women and men in this world. Women are getting graduate degrees at a higher rate than men. But if you look at the leadership ranks of the top Fortune 500, you'll notice that less than 50%, significantly less than 50% of the leaders are women. And so it is an interesting study to be thinking about what is it that men can do that women can't, and what is it that women can do that men can't. You know, we are all created equal, but what's happening with organizational culture and individual biases that may be holding people back? For instance, the different expectations are held for male and female leaders. If you take a man and he's firm on his ideas and he expects high quality and he demands it, people look at him as an effective leader. But if you have a woman that demands excellence and high quality and acts in a demanding way, some people may look at that person in a negative way and use condescending verbs because it doesn't fit what a woman leader should look like in their own mind. So having a double standard about leadership is an interesting phenomenon to consider, and it's an individual thing. So leaders need followers, and so leaders must understand what the expectations of followers are and help meet and exceed those expectations. So this slide points out that women consistently are more participated in style or democratic than men are. So again, these slides were produced based on lots of research that's been done over the last 50 years, and things are always changing, of course. Reactions to women as leaders. Men can get away with more assertiveness and being direct than women can, generally speaking, right? And when women behaved in a direct way, they got more frowns and scowls and negative head shakes than positive expressions. Men got more positives than negatives. So again, these are just generalizations that have been found in the scholarly literature. And so most leaders find that when they're getting negative results, they naturally adapt to the situation to change what's going on. And of course, that takes reflection. And again, when you generalize about something, there's always exceptions to what's being found. So consider sources and just in general think about what makes leaders effective and how do people grow in popularity and gain more influence over the actions of people. So it brings up the question, does leadership matter? So there's a lot of different ways to measure leadership and recognizing that we know that leaders have to take action. So some things that we look at are how people-oriented leaders are and versus how production-oriented leaders are. And so different things matter, the experience and ability of people. If you watch my motivation slide, you remember that there are 3 factors that affect performance. One, of course, is motivation. The second one is ability. And the third is resources. So if people are not performing as expected, it's one of those factors. And training is usually a key to most organizational problems. Professional orientation, indifference to rewards, task characteristics, routine and clarity, providing feedback, and intrinsically satisfying. So again, you have to put the right people in the right places and give them the right type of leadership. If you do so, in theory, people will want to give their best and want to grow with the organization and want to make a difference in the organization. So leaders truly matter. And you don't necessarily have to have an official title in order to move people to take the next steps. But what have you seen? So again, there's a lot of different organizations that have studied leadership, and they look at group cohesiveness, the power that people have, the formalization, how formal things are within the organization, the structure of how things are done. Again, we're talking about how organizational culture affects each individual. Are they empowered to make good decisions? Are they engaged? Do leaders talk with employees or down to employees? What does that really look like? And so even spatial distances between the leader and the group. In some countries, the top leaders have their own parking lot, and they have their own meeting rooms that employees aren't allowed to access, and it keeps the leaders separate from the rest of the employees. So you have to kind of think about how organizational structure and the leadership philosophy of organizational structure affects success. All right, I've given you a little bit of things to be thinking about as you answer this week's discussion question. And again, in your current organization or in an organization that you've worked for, discuss what you have observed with people who hold leadership titles, who are effective, and those who do not have a leadership title but significantly influence people to take action. What do each of these people do? Be specific with your examples. So do some research on informal leadership. Share with us what you have discovered. And as always, practice citing APA and make sure that you're reading the feedback that I share with you in our discussion board and the feedback that I leave you privately in the grade book. And I double dog dare you to read the posts and insights of all of your classmates each week so that you can help gain the best experience that you have, as well as share your valuable insights with your classmates. All right. Thank you so much for all of your valuable time and for listening to this video to the very end. I hope you found something out of this that helps you understand leadership a little bit better and gives you something to think about as you become the best leader that you could possibly be. And even more importantly, as I always say, I hope that you have a great day because you get to choose how you feel about it. I'm Dr. Paul Gerhardt.